Hey, Bo. How are you, dude?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ollie. Great to see you again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, how's everything been going? Well, yeah, since the Canary Islands.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy actually. We're busy packing, so I'm in Australia at the moment with my family, which is cool. So here for Christmas and New Year, got the
Nice.
wife and bub along, and also my wife's parents have come over. So we've got the whole family and just going to be hanging out in the warm weather, get away from the UK for a bit.
Yeah, man. It's been snowing over there. I mean,
It
I've
has
seen
been.
all
It's
the
been
like,
super
been
cold. I
crazy.
know, right? Yeah, people were like going down hills on their snowboards, and then in the distance there's the surf, and then they grab their surfboard and run over. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Did you get any of that before you left, or
No, we got the cold weather, but not the snow.
okay?
But yeah,
And how's it been back in Oz?
yeah, it's been good actually, really, really good. And just catching up with mates and
Yeah,
just loving the warm weather, the warm water. The surf's been actually pretty fun. So been getting in a couple of times, which has been nice. And
nice.
just like introducing the bub to the ocean as well. She's
Yeah,
only just turned a year old, and just getting her in the water every day here, something you can't really do in the UK. I mean, you can, but it's freezing and it's unpleasant
yeah.
for them. So it's just
She's
she's been
she's been
loving it.
getting in, like shivering, right? And, like
Yeah,
now
exactly.
you can. I mean, it's super. What I mean, obviously, like middle of the summer, right? For
Yeah,
you
that's
guys.
right. Yeah, coming to summer, but it's not super hot, so it's quite nice. You can kind of be out during the day. You don't have to hide away
Yeah,
from the sun, but the sun's still super intense.
yeah. Yeah, and are you in the same house that you grew up in, or did your parents move?
Yeah, so I'm in my grandma's house. My parents live here as
Okay,
well. It's like a three-story, like pretty much right next to the beach. But this is where my grandma's been for 30 years or something. And
okay,
then the family house that I grew up in is just like 5 minutes down the road. So pretty close. Know the area really
yeah,
well. Know all the surf breaks. Know all the locals, which
yeah.
is easy and nice.
And how's the surf been? Have you been getting in the water a bit?
Yeah, a couple of times it's been pretty good. The water's a bit chilly, but I'm still in boardies. I'm like not going to get in a wetsuit because I'm out of the UK now. I'm just like, no, I'm definitely staying in board shorts. Trying to find it. Everyone's in still spring suits and stuff. But
Yeah,
it's been pretty fun. We had a bit of swell when we arrived, and then I got out on the short board and then on the SUP. And then the last couple of days have been pretty small, so just been on the longboard, messing around. Been
yeah.
pretty good.
Nice, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'd love to kind of yeah go back to where it all began and how you got into surfing, and if you sort of started off was that through like nippers, like doing that over in Oz, or were you bodyboarding before, or what was yeah how did it all begin?
So I tried nippers and I did it for like 2 weeks, and I was like, why am I doing this? I could be surfing.
Yeah.
So I kind of like I didn't really get into it that way. I think my dad introduced me to it from a very early age. He had me on the front of his board since I was like 2.5 or something, and had a little bubble on my back, and he'd just hold me on the front there, and then I just loved it. Got into it that way, and then it kind of
Nice.
surfed until I was like 7 or 8, just on
Mhm.
longboards. My dad's a longboarder, so he's still surfing. He's still surfing really well, and then I kind of gave it up when I was about 8 or 9 for golf, and I just got
Yeah, you were telling me this.
super
You
focused on golf.
switched. How,
Yeah,
how,
I
how
did.
come? Like, was that just like you just want to kind of see where golf could take you, or you
Yeah,
kind
I
of
guess so. I
you've
guess
got
I
an
just
itch to
took
do
to
it?
it. Yeah, I took to it pretty easily. Again, Dad got me into that. Not that he's a great golfer, but it was just we lived like right next to the golf course growing up, so it was just
Okay.
something easy I could do after school. And I think I just took to it really well. Did a few events and did pretty well, and kind of stuck with it. And then I kind of got hit like this plateau when I was about 13 or 14, and I
Okay.
just couldn't get my handicap down from like I was off 12, and I couldn't get it down any lower. And I was there for like a year, and I was getting coaching and I was doing everything, changing clubs and doing all this stuff. And I was like, oh, this is so frustrating. So then I just started surfing again. I literally haven't touched a golf club since.
Really? You
Well,
haven't
I've
gone
had a
back to
couple of
it?
games, but yeah, it's basically just started surfing again when I was 14.
Okay.
And
And
yeah,
then
joined
were you doing competitions like straight away, like
so joined a
straight back
local
into it?
longboard club. Yeah, and
Hmm.
started getting into longboarding, and met some good friends with that, and Dad knew a few guys as well. So it was kind of more of a social thing. And then again, started doing well in the longboarding, and then started doing comps further afield rather than just on the coast with the longboard club.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I I love longboarding. I love riding the nose, and I love riding a bigger board as well. So
Yeah.
I kind of, yeah. And then obviously we'll get into the transition to stand-up paddling, but that kind of made it easy for me. But yeah, so traveled mostly around Australia, did a comp in New Zealand as well, but nothing further afield than that for longboarding.
Okay.
But yeah, so I won an Australian championship for the junior division for that. And then got a few finals in the opens.
Nice.
After that. And then I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then SUP come along.
That was it. And then, but you weren't like, did you throw in longboarding then, or did you like kind of do both at the same time?
Yeah, definitely a bit of both. So I was definitely longboarding and paddleboarding both for the start, because most of the comps would be, they'd be like a longboard comp, and then there'd be a stand-up division in that contest.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing both there, and then it kind of split in Australia. The stand-up paddlers had their own events, and the longboarders had their own events. So I kind of just started focusing on stand-up paddling after that.
Okay.
And then started traveling a lot, and then joining the tour, and went from there.
When did you, so were you sort of traveling around Oz then, what, so like 16, 17 doing the comps, or was it sort of you were just focusing on the local longboard competitions first?
Definitely focusing on the local ones first. So I grew up in New South Wales, just north of Sydney, and on the Central Coast. And there'd be events like a few hours north, a few hours south around Sydney. Yeah. And then there were some big events in Noosa Heads and Kingscliff as well. And then those events also became like the World Surf League. Like, what was the ASP, I think, back then?
Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember when they changed.
Was it WSL or was it ASP? I can't remember.
I can't remember when they switched it. But they had like qualifying events for the World Tour for the longboard. So all the top guys would come and surf, and it'd be like amazing. You have like the Del Piero brothers from France, and you'd have like Ben Skinner from the UK, Taylor Jensen from the US. You'd have all these big names in longboarding. It was so cool to be around. And obviously the Aussie guys like Harley Ingleby, Josh Constable, and guys that just rip on longboards. And that was when it was performance longboarding, not when the criteria changed to the more traditional style nowadays. So everyone was surfing high performance longboards. And then I think the change kind of happened maybe in like 2014 or 15. And I think the criteria started to blend 50-50 performance and traditional. But by that point, I'd probably stopped longboarding, and I was more focusing on SUP.
Were you like properly into performance, or like what did you prefer? I mean, or were you kind of like, you know, when you were free surfing, would you be like, yeah, I just want to you want to cruise and like nose rider stuff, or were you looking at it going like, how can I kind of push it on a longboard? And
I guess it depends on the waves, but I definitely was just full on focused on performance riding and trying to maximize that. But I mean, still with the nose riding element and doing all of that, but just focusing on like big rail carves, and guys are trying to do airs and 360s and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty sick on a longboard. Like, it looks pretty cool. And it's kind of pushing the limits of longboarding. But then it's completely done 360. Now it's back to what it was like in the 60s. And kind of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. What can they change it back?
I think longboarding was becoming too much like shortboarding. And I don't think it was appealing to a lot of the spectators and things like that. They couldn't really relate to it. And I think that with a longboard, it's definitely more about, you know, style, flow, and grace on a wave, and where you can position the board in the wave when you're on the nose and when you're kind of riding the tail. But the way the guys that are surfing now, it's just unbelievable. Just what they're doing, not like errors or anything, but just the style that they have, and just how much they can flow and link turns together is just amazing. I think it's really good that the sport has changed, but it does mean that it has pushed a few guys out of it because of it's changed the criteria.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's cool. I mean, it's good like having that style, right? Otherwise, you said it almost becomes like a little bit too samey.
Yeah.
With shortboarding, it's just sort of an extension of of, you know, what's kind of high performance surfing, right? But just on bigger boards. So and then you were like still you were still in high school, right, when this was all going on?
Yes, yeah, that's right. So it's probably in like year 11, year 12, so 17, 18 when it was all happening. And then I kind of that was when SUP kind of came along. I was like 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And I started getting on SUPs and riding them. My first SUP was like 11.2. It was like 35 wide or something. And it was so thick. It was massive. I was like, oh my God. And I hated it the first time I tried it. It was like 1 foot onshore conditions. Couldn't stand up on the thing. Couldn't turn it around. Had an absolute shocker. Came in. I was like, I'm never doing it again. And then
like, this is rubbish.
This is rubbish. Yeah, exactly. And then I ended up trying it again because it was a mate's board, and he was like, "No, give it another go." And I tried it again, and it was much cleaner conditions. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can see the appeal because it's kind of like longboarding, I guess." It was a big longboard. I could walk to the nose. I could kind of do things I wanted to, but you're already standing up. You use the paddle. You get a lot more speed from the paddle as well when you're paddling in. And then just using it on the wave, that was really amazing. That felt really natural to me, just to be able to switch the paddle over and use it as a tool to turn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why it felt so natural, but I don't know. It just felt like that was the sport that I wanted to do after that.
Sick. Did you kind of use it for like? Were you just using it for stand up surfing, or would you like take it out and just go cruising? You know, like on rivers or creeks and stuff like that.
Yeah. It kind of developed into that a little bit. I definitely wasn't at the start. It was all surfing, and it has mostly been surfing.
Yeah,
I did do I have done a few touring paddles, like expeditions and things like that. I think that was more to explore the other disciplines of SUP, which I mean, there's so many disciplines of SUP that you can do.
Yeah.
And touring is something that I really enjoy doing. I don't find the time for it anymore, but it's something I've definitely enjoyed in the past. And your multi-day adventures, like we did a 10-day paddle down the Green River in Utah in the US.
Yes.
And it's just like going through canyons and desert, and that was amazing. Just camping on these sand islands along the way, taking all your own food and everything. There's nothing out there, and it's just wilderness. And a few paddles.
How would you take it? Would you take it on your back, or you kind of like take a backpack with you?
Yeah, it's just store it all on the board, and then have like maybe a little hydration pack or something along the way. But yeah, basically everything's on the board. My family was with me on that one, and they were in canoes, so they took a lot of the gear, which was easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we're touring in Australia, just chuck all the stuff on the board, which is good. And they're inflatable boards as well, so you can pack them down. You can jump on the bus, you can jump on the train, and that way you could like link up rivers and things like that. So we did a few cool expeditions like that, which was nice.
Sick.
Yeah.
And then we've got a bit of a thing in common with what we studied as well, haven't we? Which we found out. So you were after high school, you went to Southern Cross University and did sports management and Sprackett's surfing studies, which was actually a thing in the day. How did you find out about the course?
I think it was actually through my mum. She was like, I kind of finished school. I think it was 2009. I finished school, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I was working at a local surf shop here. There was an opportunity to start up a stand-up paddleboard kind of lessons and things through them. And he's like a big influence on me, a great surfer, the owner of the store. And I was like considering doing that. But mum was like, there's like this course up at Southern Cross at Tweed Heads, and it's a sport management course. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe. He's like, no, it's a surfing course. I was like, what? A surfing course? Sign me up. So literally just applied for that and got in, which was nice. Which was amazing. And it was such a fun course. And I'm sure you enjoyed it as well. When did you do the course?
Yeah, I loved it. So I did it in I think it was like 2005 maybe. So it was the second year that they had it.
Right.
And the first year, and I just thought I didn't even think this was real. I was like, I could go. Like I always wanted to go to Oz and kind of do something over there. I was like, should I go over and like do like a sort of working holiday or and found it. It was in the local paper in the UK when I was living in London. And my mum as well, she found it. She's like, "Oh, check this out." I'm like, I'm going over to do that. She's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, got in, and that was it. But it was pretty cool, right? I mean, like, where did you live? Were you living like in Tweed Heads when you were there, or because
like, so I was in
the campus was like on the Gold Coast, right? So like,
yeah, that's right. I was at I don't know if you know Duckett Street in Tweed Heads.
Okay.
No, it's kind of like just back from Kira. So I was just across the border in New South Wales. And you want to know the reason why I was just across the border?
How go?
Because when I was competing, the people in New South Wales, this is my thought anyway. So they had obviously the state titles for longboarding and stand-up paddling, and you had to qualify through the state titles to get to the national titles. And I thought the competition was a bit easier in New South Wales.
Okay. So yeah, so if literally like if you were just across the border in Queensland, then
I'd have to compete in the Queensland titles, which is much tougher.
Very good.
I had like all the top guys there, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna live in New South Wales."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was such a good place to live, and the course was amazing. It was like, what we learned so much, didn't we? It was Well, I became a surf coach through it, and shaped our own boards. We learned all about the business, marketing, all that stuff in the industry as well. It was amazing.
And then on the event side of things as well. So I think we both we were like working for Surfing Queensland. I remember like doing a few events with them and stuff, and that was kind of all introduced through the course, and like shaping boards and stuff like that. It was crazy. So it's like so much I think that came out of it. I remember getting like my first coaching job out of there. I was doing like bits and bobs for schools on the Gold Coast and in Burleigh and stuff like that, and then found a school in Fuerteventura in the Canaries, and they're like, "Oh yeah, do you want to come over when you finished? Can you be here in a week?" kind of thing. So I think I went back for Christmas, saw the family for like 3 days. I was like, anyway, I got to go to Fuerteventura. I've got to be a surf instructor over there for a bit. And they were like, "You doing what?" I was like, "Well, you know." No, it was pretty cool, man. It was good times. And then living there and being able to surf Snapper and Kira is just a dream. I mean, place is amazing. Where would you go? Like, would you have spots where you go stand up and where you'd longboard? Do you have any like kind of favorites?
Yeah, I mean, Green Mountain was always a favorite for like longboarding and SUP.
Yeah,
I'd only ever surf Snapper if I was on a shortboard. Oh, sometimes on a longboard. There's a really good longboarder and stand-up paddler, Jackson Close, who lives there as well. He was we kind of became pretty good friends. So he's a local guy. He kind of took me out there, and not that he'd give me any waves, but just that I
wouldn't be blocking for you and stuff.
No, he said no, not at all. But it just helped that I could get a couple when I was out there. But mostly I'd surf Currumbin Alley actually, because I was also surf coaching at Currumbin Alley, and I just surf a lot there. But that's become like the stand-up paddleboard mecca of Australia. It's such an easy way for stuff like for stand-up paddling, kind of down the end like toward Lacey's, and you kind of get into Palm Beach area. You can there's some really good waves for stand-up paddling, and there's like on any given day there's probably like 30 or 40 paddlers out there. Probably now it's like 30 or 40 foilers. It's probably like gone to that next level. But even just the beaches from up from Burleigh back to kind of that Currumbin area, like Palm Beach and Burleigh, Miami, they're all fun beaches.
Yeah. And then what about further down south? So kind of where the high performance center is and stuff like that around like Cabarita, and loads of good spots around there, huh?
Tons of good spots. Yeah. I mean, like you got D-Bar, and then just across the river from D-Bar is a place called Fingal. That place is just insane. Such a good right-hander when it's good, but really strong rip. So I'd be like on my SUP, and I could just paddle against the rip. It was so easy. But the paddle out was always tough. But yeah, like Casuarina and the back of Kingscliff, there's some really good waves around there. Really good waves.
Nice. I got to get back over there. Do a little stint. It got so. I mean, it was crowded anyway, right? But it got like, I guess just the super bang. You can get away, especially if you don't want to. If you want to go to some of the beaches, then there's definitely. I mean, there's spots everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trade-off, isn't it? You could surf Snapper and get 2 unbelievably long waves in the rides of your life, kind of thing. Or you can
Yeah.
surf the beach and get 100 waves, but they're probably pretty average.
Yeah. That's it. And what did you do when you graduated?
So actually during the course, we did the internship part of the course.
Okay.
And actually, I'm going to tell you a funny story, Ollie. I never actually graduated in the year of 2010.
Oh, no way.
I didn't know this. So it wasn't until 2017 that I was working at a resort in the Maldives, and they asked for my highest level of education.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sweet, done this course. And I was like, where's my certificate? Well, I never got a certificate. So I emailed the university, and they're like, oh no, you failed the internship part of your course. I was like, what? They're like,
Really?
yeah, you apparently didn't submit it or something. And anyway, so I had to do this values course or something, values and ethics, to kind of make up for it. And I graduated in 2017. But it was funny because from the internship, I actually did my internship with a company called Tropic Surf. And they're like a luxury surf coaching provider that partner with resorts all around the world, luxury resorts, so 4 seasons, kind of high end. And I did my internship with them, and from that I actually got a job with them surf coaching in the Maldives. Kind of each year I'd do like a few months out there, so it didn't really matter that I'd failed it. I kind of got a job through.
No, you weren't thinking about it then, right? And
No,
were you on
exactly.
some of their boats? Because they got some amazing, like proper, like high end, like luxury boats that go around the Maldives, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, one of them from the Four Seasons Explorer. It's just this catamaran, this mega yacht thing. It's huge, and it's just super luxurious. And obviously the service is amazing on there. And yeah, we just cruise around. I think it's one of the only boats that can travel at night in the Maldives, just because there's so many reefs and things. It's got the GPS and all of the satellite communications to be able to travel overnight, whereas the other vessels don't have that. So
interesting.
that was pretty cool. So you travel overnight. So you
basically, and then you just wake up in the morning and you're at a new spot looking at a new reef, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sick.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
And what did you do for them?
So mostly just surf coach. So surf guiding was is what they called it. So I was the second in charge guide on most of the trips for the following couple of years, and there was always a head guide who'd kind of be leading the trips. But there's always 2 guides, maybe like 8 or 10 people, maybe 12 people on board a boat.
Yeah.
And I just want to do the boat trips because I really love doing the boat trips. I did a couple of resort stints, but I didn't really enjoy the resort just because I think I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't going to be there for so long, so I couldn't really connect with so many people.
Okay.
It was kind of, people would just kind of come in, they'd kind of come in for a lesson, and then like a 2-hour lesson, and then they'd leave, and you never see them again. We're on a boat, you live with them for a week, and you get to know them, and I think the coaching just becomes easier, and you can talk to them a little bit better as well, and start to understand how they want to be coached and how they like to be taught. They
start opening up, I guess, as well, right? If they're kind of like, they're like, oh, I'm going to be stuck on the boat with this guy.
Exactly.
I can't hide away.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. But so when I finished the course, I was doing a bit of work with them, but I also did a bit of work with Surfing Queensland. So I was their admin. I was kind of their admin guy for a while. And then actually quit after a few months because I wanted to focus on stand-up paddling and start doing the tour and start traveling a bit more. So I obviously couldn't take the time off. It was a great job. I loved working with Surfing Queensland, but I just couldn't do both. So that's kind of when I started getting into the tour as well. And Tropic Surf allowed me to be able to travel and kind of come in and out of coaching overseas.
Oh, that's sick.
They kind of, so when they needed me, they'd fly me in. Then I'd also be surf coaching at Currumbin Alley on the Gold Coast with a surf school there. So I was kind of doing a lot of coaching and then traveling for saving up a lot and then paying to go overseas.
And how was that first year on tour?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So the first event, it was a trials event. So I had to go through the trials, which is kind of like the kind of entry level. And then you got to qualify through the trials to get to the main event. And then you could kind of be on tour if you get to the top 24. So the first event was in Hawaii and I made it through the trials. And then I got 17th, I think, in the event. And this was the first event of the year. So it was kind of like setting the scene for who was going to be going to the next event.
Sick.
And I was like, sick,
And
I qualified.
this was at Sunset, wasn't it? Or
Yeah, Sunset. This was
okay.
2011, I guess. No, it must have been 2012.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember anymore.
And was it big? Was it pretty heavy?
It was big. It was probably some of the biggest surf I've ever taken on out there. And I had some custom board shaped. And yeah, I had like a 9.6, I think, shaped. And this was when boards were still pretty big. So other guys were on like 10 foot or 9.6. I think Kyle Laney was there. He was probably on the smallest board. I think he was on like an 8.6 or something. And everyone was like, whoa, that's way too small to be out there. But yeah, everyone was like on 9 foot or something. And yeah, it was pretty big. It was probably like 10 to 12 Hawaiian. Like it was pretty solid. And I remember taking off on this wave and just, I think there's a photo of it and just the drop. I was just like, look on my face. I'm just like, oh my God.
Just proper wide-eyed,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I think I made that, did a couple of turns and got like a 4 or 5, but ended up getting through and qualifying. And I was like, yes.
And had you been out there, like done any seasons out there or spent a bit of time over there where it had been big?
No, I think we did a family holiday to Hawaii, kind of out of surf season.
Okay.
And that was kind of my first introduction to it, but not really any big waves. But that was like January or February, I think. So like the heart of surf season. And it was crazy. I had so many practice sessions just to like get psyched up and just trying to understand how to ride big waves. But I've always had like a love of big waves. So it's always been enjoyable for me to take a pounding or try and surf the biggest waves around the coast where I grew up here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Even on the Goldie, kind of try and charge some bigger waves, but not it was nothing that big.
And it gets big, right? Over in Oz, it's not like it's all kind of fun, playful, sort of shoulder chest high waves everywhere and more water. It can get pretty serious, right?
Yeah, it sure can. Yeah.
So would you look out for those kind of waves, or like on the big days when it was on then, and you'd basically hunt it out?
Yeah, definitely. There was a few spots, especially when I was growing up here around the coast, that I'd know like when it's on, like we're going for sure. Like, Dad, we're getting up early. We're going to go down, and you're going to take me down, and you're going to film me or something. Because he'd never go out in those kind of ways.
Would he go out with you? No, he
he wouldn't go out with me. No, he'd just watch me from the shore and he'd just be freaking out.
Just be like that.
But exactly. But I just take my normal longboard out and just this guy's just what I felt comfortable on.
Yeah,
and just charge it. But it was always hard to kind of get the right conditions. I mean, we get a lot of swell, and sometimes it's not super clean, especially like the big wave spots. There's a couple of, the coves and bays and things you can get into, but the swell is always a bit smaller when it's really stormy. But yeah, when it was on, it was super fun.
Yeah, sick. And so then qualifying, and then like that's it. You were on tour. You made it. Getting 17th. And then did we then like 100% focused on that for those? It was for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was like 2012 to 2015 I did. So it's that 3 or 4 solid years.
Yeah.
And the first 2 years I was fully committed. I did every event that they had on tour, and just tried to work my way up the rankings and kept qualifying every time, which was good. Staying in that kind of top 24. But I think I did the best result I had was a 4th, and I think that might have been 2013. But I don't know. There was some amazing surfers there. That was like the peak of Kyle Laney's career, and then the Brazilian Storm were like up and coming as well. There was so many Brazilians getting into it, and then there was kind of that weird, like I was saying before, that the length of board kind of changing as well. So everyone was on big boards. Everyone was like riding, what's like those 9 footers at Sunset, but then you go to like the small waves events and everyone would still be on 8.6 or something.
Okay.
But now people are on like 7 or under 7.
Was it transitioning? Or
it was, then, so throughout that time, it was definitely transitioning. I was always on a board that was over 8 feet until about 2014. And then I just had to get on a smaller board just to be able to keep up with turning tight in the pocket and things like that. But the guys were just killing it on such small boards, and it was so hard to keep up, especially coming from a longboard background. I like that bit of length in my board, so it was hard for me to kind of drop down in size and keep up with them.
And would everyone be getting like custom boards depending on the different waves? So like it went over to Tahiti and stuff and surfing some pretty serious spots over there. Like or was everyone kind of traveling? They'd kind of have like one sort of main board and they'd use that in most conditions.
Yeah, kind of just depended on the sponsors and who the athletes were sponsored by.
Okay.
Some would have just production boards. I was mostly on production boards. I was riding for Nash back then, so I was mostly on just production boards. Actually, that yellow one above me, that's a custom gun. But that didn't happen until like 2014 that they started doing customs. I know Kyle Lanny was getting customs way before then, but he was like he was their pin-up boy. So he'd have to be kind of pushing the level and things like that to be able to get customs. Most guys were on custom boards. I'd say that a lot of the Brazilians, because they were so hard to get equipment into Brazil, and there's not really many distributors for the top brands, that they'd all be on local shapers. So they'd just get custom boards. And a few of the other guys, were definitely on customs, or they'd be sponsored by a major brand, but have a custom shape with a sticker on top, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you have to be on the best equipment, don't you, to be able to perform?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And would you say was there any kind of like looking back now, any standout event or place for you?
I'd say Brazil was really cool. I really like going to Brazil. I really found the people in Brazil super friendly, always really welcoming. We went to some cool spots there as well, and like some good parties after the events and things like that as well, which was really fun. But probably like the best event was we went to the British Virgin Islands. Then that was the end of 2012. I think you might have been chatting with Tristan about this when we were in Gran Canaria. Yeah, so everyone was on a catamaran, like a yacht. There was like 8 yachts or something, and they split them up into kind of either the people like from their own country or like team riders. So I was on the Nash boat. It was like Kyle Lenny and Chuck Patterson. There was Noah Janella and a couple of other guys as well. And then there was like a starboard boat, and then there was like a Brazilian boat, and we kind of just all cruise around the islands there looking for waves. And they had an event on this outer reef, and the boat would just moor up next to it, and the judge just sit on that, and everyone would kind of moor up around it and just watch the event, which was kind of sick.
That's sick.
Yeah, and so that was probably a standout.
Were the waves good? Like did you score?
Didn't get epic waves. No, didn't get epic waves at all. But
just the experience, fun. Right? I mean, being out there with 8 boats and
for sure.
That's sick.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah.
And then when you came back, when did you think like that you wanted to kind of do your own business and kind of start that whole journey?
Yeah, that was interesting. So I kind of stopped competing in kind of mid 2015, and at that point I had left Nash as a major sponsor and was getting custom boards and supporting myself doing the tour. And I was just getting to a point where I just couldn't really afford to do it anymore. So I started looking more seriously at maybe doing my own thing or getting some work. And I reached out again to Tropic Surf and managed to secure running a resort or running the surf part of the resort in the Maldives at a place called Gili Lankan. And so moved out there and started doing that. Met my wife out there as well. So now wife, which is cool. So she's from the UK, and we kind of met halfway between the UK and Australia in the Maldives.
Yeah.
And started that whole journey together. But we moved from there to Costa Rica. We did Costa Rica for a couple of years, and then back to Maldives. And this was all through Tropic Surf, working at their locations and things like that. And then there was a point where I kind of approached Tropic Surf to kind of do more stand-up paddling and do a little bit more with SUP, because there were a lot of clients coming to me just for SUP specific coaching. And I thought, yes, definitely we can do something here. Like we could set up a base, or I could, go to somewhere that has better SUP waves, or we could kind of build up the SUP community and help it out. And they were kind of not really helpful or not willing to do it. I think they had their own core base of surfers and maybe the image or that they wanted to
Yeah. Do you reckon they thought that? It was sort of like, I don't know, a bit of a sort of
I don't know. I
surf
think it was
snobbery thing on it, or it was like, this is too
Yeah.
small, or it's like,
maybe that there's this thought, maybe there's nothing in it. And
okay.
yeah, so at that point, it was actually during the values and ethics course where I graduated from university that I figured out that I actually wanted to start a travel business for stand-up paddling. So I started Travel with a Paddle, and yeah, we run SUP surf coaching and marine conservation and education experiences in Maldives and Costa Rica. So we've got a lot of experience there. That's my wife and I, we run that together. So she's a marine biologist. And yeah, so we do a bit of flat water as well. We can run flat water trips, and yeah, it's been really good. I mean, we started it in 2019, which is probably a pretty bad time to start a travel business.
Oh my god. My god. Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up getting through that, and yeah, now it's starting to pick up, which is good.
Did you run anything? There was nothing running that year.
2019, I ran a couple of trips. I did a couple of trips in the Maldives, with some clients. We did just boat charters there for a couple of weeks. And then after that, 2020, we had a lot lined up. We had a few solid. I think we had a month or two out in Costa Rica just running trips back to back.
Okay.
And we had a few trips in Maldives as well.
Yeah.
And my wife was just about to quit her job in April or May of 2020. And we had it all lined up. We're going to, she was going to quit her job. We're going to go full time on the business, throw ourselves in, and then.
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of I think we're in Cologne in Carnival, and it was just 3 million people all in fancy dress, and then one person's just have you heard about this thing that's happening in China? And there's a few people that have got infected, and then you just don't really think anything of it. It's that will blow over. It's 3 million people there, just probably super spreading, and then going into stadiums watching football matches, and but I don't know. Hopefully, we're just kind of we'll see what happens with it now, but it seems things are kind of getting on the run. It's improving, so we'll have to see. And you guys then, so when you left, did you go straight over to the UK?
When we left Costa Rica?
Yeah, did you during that thing when you saw when everything was happening, did you then you moved to the UK? And
so we're in the UK, and that was kind of the whole thing. We were going to leave the UK to go to Costa Rica and do some work there. Then we're going to the Maldives to do some work. So we're kind of going to be nomads again, traveling around, and we weren't going to base ourselves anywhere. We're just going to keep moving around.
Yeah.
And then we ended up I got back to the UK, and everything shut down. I mean, Australia shut down completely, so I couldn't even get home if I wanted to. I mean, I probably could, but there were no flights going.
Yeah.
So at that point, I actually had to apply for a visa because my working holiday visa was just starting to come to an end. So I had to get on the partner visa or spouse visa.
Yeah.
So I applied for that, and now I'm kind of not stuck there, but I have to see it out for 5 years. Yeah. And get permanent residency. But well, it definitely wasn't planned that we were going to be in the UK, but it so ended up that we were there. And it was really tough the first kind of year because I couldn't get any work. I mean, there was no work anywhere. So that was quite tough. And I was starting to do some things online with coaching, but no one was allowed out to do anything, and it was just it was super tough. So my wife was luckily on furlough, so she was still getting paid while everyone was off work. Yeah. Which was good and which was very helpful. But that's actually the point where SUPboarder Magazine kind of reached out, and they were like, "Oh, hey," or actually we reached out to them and say, "Oh, let's write some travel articles for Travel with a Paddle. Let's get that back up and running a little bit." This was probably when was it? Maybe May, June 2020. So just a couple of months into lockdown. But let's just get on it. Things might start opening up next year. Let's just get the word back out there and start building up a bit of stuff. So we're writing a lot of travel articles for them. Nice. And they're like, "Oh, Bo, we know you from before. You used to compete. Where are you these days?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually in Cornwall." And I'm like, "No way. We're based in Cornwall too." I was like, "What? That's crazy." So I linked up with those guys and then managed to get some work through them doing reviews of equipment and and just online videos for their YouTube and things like that, which has been really helpful.
And you were doing a podcast as well, weren't you?
Yeah, so I started up a podcast called Voices of SUP. So I started interviewing athletes in the stand-up paddle industry, and that was really good to kind of reconnect with people. It had been a few years, probably 5 years or so, since I'd seen them or chatted to them. So that was good to do that. And I think that was kind of like their entry back into the working life.
yeah.
After quite a few months off, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, man. And then now, obviously, we're like everything kind of opened up again, travel's back, booming. And like, where do you sit going with stand-up paddleboarding? And yeah, I guess the industry and the sort of travel side of it specifically.
Yeah, so I guess I'm pretty lucky to be a part of SUPboarder Magazine as well, because I see a lot of the industry through that. Because we're reviewing lots of equipment, we get a lot of people writing in about boards, about what kit they want, maybe what they want to be doing, or be it SUP surfing or whitewater paddling or whatever it is. So I get a pretty good insight through that with what's happening in the industry. So it's been very helpful for the travel side, and especially SUP surfing, because we can definitely see a bit of a boom happening with SUP surfing. There's a lot more people getting into it just from flat water paddling, and people are wanting to give it a go. I think there's definitely an appeal. And I guess it's just another discipline as well for a part of SUP. You can flat water, downwind, you can surf, you can foil. There's so many things you can do on a stand-up paddleboard. And it's just something that people want to get into. So definitely a lot more SUP surf coaching is going to be happening in the future. Lot of plans happening in the pipeline to release a lot of online content videos about SUP coaching and things like that. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, definitely Travel with a Paddle is back up and running. We've got a lot of trips planned. 2023 is going to be like kind of our feeler out year again, and we're going to open up a couple of new locations. We've got Mozambique that we're going to in August next year, which is going to be pretty sick. And then we've also got Maldives as well. And then 2024, we're going to be doing Costa Rica again, Maldives. Okay. Yeah, so we'll be adding a few more destinations again.
Nice. And then are you going to kind of grow it from there and maybe get some other people involved? And so would you have like instructors at different places, or are you and Claire, you're going to be going to every location? And
yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes. I think it's a bit different now with our little one. She's definitely put a hold on how we could expand, just like with my wife and I doing it. But I think Claire definitely wants to be on it and doing a few more trips, but probably not too many, just because we don't want to spend too much time away from the little one. And I think I'll probably end up getting guides elsewhere, but I think for now it'll just be me going on the trips and just getting a bit more experience doing that. And then hopefully I can be training someone else up in the near future to be able to take on those guiding trips. But also we'll just be selling a lot of travel, so we're able to tailor people's travel experiences. So if someone wanted to go to the Maldives or Costa Rica or anywhere in the world for that matter, we're able to book their accommodation, tell them where to go stand up paddling, and give us some insights and swell forecasts and things like that where they want to go. Yeah.
Sick. Nice, man. And then you're going to be doing some more videos for like for SUPboarder and things like that. And then hosting as well, a bit of commentary maybe coming up.
Yeah, hopefully we can team up again. That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It was so good, man. I think we were just jibber jabbering away for like 10 hours for the whole week. But
yeah, it was super cool. It was awesome. You did so well. It was your first stand-up paddle event, and you nailed it. It was so good. So
I didn't know what to expect, man. And then when I saw it, I was blown away. I was like, they're absolutely ripping. And then just being out in the water with them and seeing like how fast you can actually go on the wave with a paddle. It's like, I was getting a bit jealous. Ditch the shortboard and just
exactly. Get out there on a
converted. That was good. Awesome. And what's the best way if people want to, if they want to find out what you're up to or reach out, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can head to travelwithapaddle.com, or you can check out our Instagram, or just look at my Instagram, Bo Nixon. I think it's Bo_Nixon. I'm pretty bad with social media. But check out our website, You'll be able to contact us through there. And if you have any questions of want to travel or any questions about anything, just reach out. Happy to help out and just offer some advice for anyone who wants to get into stand-up paddle surfing or stand-up paddling for that matter, or even going on a cool adventure.
Nice, man. And yeah, one bit of advice for someone getting into it, what would it be?
One bit of advice. I mean, having fun, definitely got to have fun and enjoy it. It'd be, and if someone's getting into SUP surfing specifically, I'd just say get on a bigger board to start with. Just make it more enjoyable. Just make it really stable for yourself. Just ease into it gently, because you might even have that board forever, and you can introduce other people into the sport with that board as well. So even if you did step down in size, but yeah, you got to just have the most fun.
You don't want to be jumping on a 7.2 and kind of paddling underwater with your knees straight.
No, exactly. That's exactly right. But yeah, I mean, so many people do it. It's people look at the volume or they look at the width, and they just need to look at the overall shape of the board and things like that. I've done a few videos that can help people understand what to look for in a board. So yeah, there's tons of good content out there. But yeah, make sure you definitely just have the fun factor really high.
Yeah, nice one, man. Cool. Well, Bo, man, it's been awesome catching up, and yeah, hopefully we can be somewhere around the world, like see what happens next year. And yeah, good luck with all. We're setting up all the locations too. It sounds like it's going to be a fun one over in Mozambique, and it's going to be good.
Yeah, it should be awesome. No, thanks so much, Ollie, for the opportunity. It's been great to be part of the Rad Season podcast, and yeah, look forward to seeing what you've got coming out as well in the future.
Thanks, Ed. Chat soon.
You.
Later.